Welcome to the Damn Strong podcast. I'm your host, Bree, and I'm a full-time online fitness coach, and my passion is to educate women on all things fitness. I help women just like you step into the power of knowledge and commitment to ultimately live your best and strongest life. In this podcast, we'll talk about being damn strong in our body, mind, and life. I'll be teaching you how to navigate nutrition, strength training, and mindset challenges. So get ready to take some notes because we're building a damn strong life. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am Bree, and this is the Damn Strong podcast. And today we got a debunking episode. I believe this is part 4. If I am wrong on that, and the title says like part 5 or something, just don't quote me on that. Okay. There's been a few debunking episodes, and I don't always check before I film them. Okay. So today's debunking episode's a little bit different. Like normally when I come on here with these debunking, it's like metabolism this or starvation mode or training, whatever this. This one's more of like things that I see people say online, kind of mindset things almost in a way. Yeah, I don't know how to categorize it. I feel like it's things that I see people say, and it kind of goes with a mindset behind it. And so those are the things I actually want to spend time debunking today, because I think, you guys have heard me say a million times on the podcast that your fitness goals are 90% mindset and where you're at with your brain. And so let's debunk some of these things that may screw with you when it comes to how you pursue your goals. So we'll just dive in the first one. You've heard it before. People usually talk about Beyonce when they say it, but they say, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, or you have the same 24 hours in a day as Beyonce. And I just think that's untrue. Now, technically, yes, we all do have 24 hours, but they're not all the same. This is where it's like on semantics. Is that the right word? I don't think that's the right word. This is where phrasing really matters, because yes, we all technically do have 24 hours. Yeah, Beyonce has 24 hours and she's queen bee, but you also have 24 hours, and your 24 hours look way different than Beyonce's. I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed, but she has like a lot of money, and I'm sure she has a lot of help with everything that she does too. So I just don't think, I get what people are trying to do. They're like, hey, if Beyonce can do it, you can do it. If Beyonce's got 24 hours and she's doing all this, you can do what you need to do in 24 hours. Like, I get the encouragement of it, but I don't think it's helpful. I think what's more helpful is to recognize we don't have all the same 24 hours in a day, and recognize that yes, 24 hours is a measurement that we use, just like a mile or a kilometer, right? Yes, all miles are the same. It's like that sound. If you've heard that sound on TikTok or Reels recently, where it's like, which is longer, the Boston Marathon or the LA Marathon? It's like all marathons are the same length. Right? They're all 26.1 miles. Okay. A mile is a mile. 24 hours is 24 hours. Right. But not every mile is the same. If you're running a mile uphill, you know how much harder that is? It's still a mile technically, but it's a lot harder. Or maybe your mile is really, really rocky, or maybe your mile is really, really dwindly, like curving and stuff like that. Right. Everyone's mile is going to be different. I think the sooner we can recognize, like, yes, we all have a mile that we need to travel, but recognize that your mile looks different than someone else, and it helps to align your expectations a little bit different. You need to meet yourself where you're at. So while I understand people are just trying to be encouraging and saying, hey, we all have the same 24 hours. Like, if she can do it, you can do it. I can get how that can maybe in some scenarios be encouraging. Maybe you have a similar mile to someone else, right? Maybe you're a single mom with 2 kids and you're working a full-time job, and you see some fitness person online who's also, a mom with 2 kids and a single mom with 2 kids and works a full-time job. And that's inspiring to you, because you're like, you know what, if she can do it, like, I can do it. Like, I get that. But when we're comparing different miles, when you're comparing Beyonce to you, I just don't think that's fair. I think what's more fair is to meet yourself where you're at. And so with that, a lot of times online, you're comparing, you've probably heard the phrase of like, don't compare her chapter 20 to your chapter 1. Sometimes you're comparing your uphill rocky mile to their smooth, flat surface. I mean, if you're looking at, even compare it to me, like, I'm a 30-year-old, no kids, dual income, work from home, work for myself, work from home, right? Like, me being in a deficit or going to a bulk or getting to the gym or going for walks is a lot easier for me than other people. So it's not fair for you to have maybe a comparison to me and my journey. My mile is relatively flat and not uphill. Like, yeah, there's some speed bumps along the way, and I have to navigate and figure things out. And I don't want to just disqualify anything. Like, I definitely have to work things around stuff, but I do have the luxury of having a lot of flexibility. And maybe you don't, and you're comparing your uphill rocky mile to my flat, no incline mile. And so because you're comparing an unfair mile to mile, now you feel like shit and you feel like you haven't achieved anything, when what you need to do is recognize, saying, hey, you know what? Brie can run her mile because it's flat. Okay. It's going to be easier for her. My mile is uphill and it's rocky. So I not only need to walk, I need to be careful because if I try to run up this hill, I'm going to this is where burnout happens, right? Is you try to go as hard and as fast as possible with whatever part of your journey that it is, and you burn yourself out because you were trying to run uphill. What you should have recognized is like, hey, this is going to be uphill. It's going to be a little more difficult. I'm not going to run it. I'll get there. I will get there. Is it going to be a little bit slower than Brie? Yeah. Is she going to get to the top of the mountain sooner than me? Or again, I guess I'm not climbing a mountain, right? I'm on flat road in this scenario. Is she going to get to the destination sooner than me? Yeah. But like at the end of the day, what matters is that we both get to the destination, not whether how fast I go or how slow I go. What matters is I get there safe and I get there. So I'm not only going to walk the mountain and climb it, I'm going to put on hiking shoes so I don't slip on the rocks or whatever. I know I'm going like really extensive into this scenario, but that's sometimes what you need to see for yourself. I talk through this a lot with clients, not in like a mile scenario, but there's a lot of times where I've talked trade-offs with clients a lot. And it might be like, a client's like really unhappy that they're only losing half a pound a week, which half a pound is great. Half a pound to a pound per week is fantastic. And I talk to them when they're only losing quotation marks. Again, it's half a pound is great. I'll ask them like, well, do you want to change anything? Do we want to lower calories? Do you want to go, are you wanting to go out less? Like, maybe there's some trade-offs that they're taking and that is making things go slower. Maybe they're having some more untracked meals or we're a little bit, more lax on the weekends or whatever it may be. And I'm like, do you want to give some of those things up? Like in order for us to go faster, we have to tighten some things. There's some more trade-offs. Is there anything you want to trade off? And they're like, well, no. And it's like, okay, then why don't we accept that you're getting to enjoy your deficit how you want to, and you're still on track for going the direction you want to go. Right. So again, to wrap up this point, we all have 24 hours, but we do not all have the same 24 hours. And you need to meet yourself where you're at and understand that you will get there. You just may have to take a different road than a different person. Okay. The next phrase that I like to hear, not that I like to hear, that I do hear online is no pain, no gain, no guts, no glory. I hate this because it just reinforces the extremes. That's what we're stuck on. I mean, we've probably all of humanity has always been stuck on this, I'm sure, but like the all or nothing mentality, it really just pushed that. It's like, if you're not suffering, then you're not making progress. And that's just so untrue. Like, yes, is there going to be some discomfort? Any growth that you have is going to have some discomfort, 100%, but it's not no pain, no gain. I feel like a lot of people are like, if I'm absolutely starving in my deficit, that's how I know it's working. It's like, will you go through some hunger? Sure. Like, will there be some moments where you're like, man, I'm finding that I'm hungrier more often than normal because I'm in a deficit, but you shouldn't be starving. You should be miserable this whole time. I had a client recently. She has been in maintenance for quite a period. We started out, she was in a deficit. Through time and through conversation, we really realized that she needed to be at maintenance for a period of time. She really needed to feel the abundance of maintenance. And we actually just today started her day one of her deficit with us. And when she came to me saying, I want to go back into a deficit, she's like, I have a completely different, I can't remember exactly how she said it, but she was like, I have a completely different mindset. She's like, previously, fat loss phase or going to a deficit was I wish I remember exactly how she said it, but she said somewhere along the lines of she was like, a deficit was something that I suffered through for an extended period of time. She's like, now I understand a deficit is something where like I make trade-offs. I get in, I get out. Like we go into it. I'm not trying to be miserable the whole time. I make the trade-offs. I dial things in. I get in. I lose the body fat that I want, and we get out and we get back to maintenance. And I was like, yes, like it does not need to be this painful long thing that you suffer through. My favorite analogy, you guys know I love analogies, for this kind of thing is like how they grow grapes. So I think I've said this in a recent podcast previously. Sage and I are massively into wine. We know a ton of things about wine, and something of how they grow wine is they purposefully, and maybe this is all fruit, I'm just not aware of it, they purposefully put wine in a stressful state, but not too much stress or it'll kill the vine. So when you're making wine, certain varietals, they'll actually put it on like a certain side of a mountain or in a certain part of the vineyard. So it gets like more heat to it. So that way it stresses out the vine more, because if it stresses out the vine more, it'll produce better fruit, because it needs to be under some type of, I guess stress is the best word, under some type of stress. But if it's under too much stress, the vine will die. And so a lot of, I guess, farmers or wine growers find that perfect amount of stress for the vine. They want it just stressed enough that it is going to produce and better fruits, grapes, but they don't want it under so much stress that they end up killing the plant. So with any type of growth, there's going to be some type of discomfort. Now, I'm not saying that you need to find that perfect line of like your insanity of like you're okay, but you're about to go insane. It's like, no, we don't need you to be like that crazy on the line with stress and no pain, no gain. But there is going to be a level of discomfort. So I think it's both. I think it's acknowledging that you don't have to be miserable in order to see growth, but you do have to accept some amount of discomfort, trade-offs, or sacrifices. And that is literally how anything works in life. Think about any goal you have ever had. You have had to make a trade-off or a sacrifice, right? Whether that's saving for a house, having kids, going for a promotion, a job, there's some type of trade-off that you're making. And it's uncomfortable in the moment, right? And then you achieve whatever said goal may be, and then you go for the next one. And there's some discomfort in that. So I don't like the no pain, no gain, no guts, no glory, because again, in my opinion, I think it leans into the all or nothing. And people, it's like the more miserable you are, the more you're going to get out of it, the better gains you're going to have. It's like, no, if anything, if you push yourself too hard and it's too painful, it's going to kill you like the vine, right? It's going to knock your motivation. It's going to knock your discipline because it's just too much for you. Okay, last one here that I want to talk about is when people just talk about how you just don't want it enough. You just don't want it enough. Like if you wanted it, you would do it, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I do think there's some truth to that, but I think your fitness goals are so much deeper than just wanting it enough, right? And how I navigate through, is it something that you truly want, or are you making it a priority? I call it the $1 million question. Like let's say you're, really struggling to hit your step goal. Okay. And this week I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you $1 million if you can hit your step goal this week. You'd make it happen. You'd figure it out. You actually probably go buy a walking pad, or you'd go out and walk in the summer heat, or you would drive to the gym and get on the pad. You make it for $1 million. You'd make that happen. But if I didn't give you the $1 million, maybe you wouldn't have made that happen. And so I think that's a good check to say, okay, is me hitting my step goal actually a priority? And can I actually make it happen? Like, is it important to me enough to make it happen? Or is it not important to me? Because when I offered you $1 million, you were able to make it happen. But without that $1 million, it wasn't as important. So truly, maybe your step goal isn't a priority to you. I'm not saying it isn't, but that's a good question to ask yourself to see, okay, is it truly a priority to me? It's also a good question to ask yourself if you actually have time, right? There's been times where, again, I'm just like, oh, it's late. Like, I really don't want to go get my steps in, or whatever goal. It could be protein, it could be calories, it could be your workout, whatever. And I'll, pretend like, hey, Brie, if someone was to give you $1 million right now, could you go get a workout in? It's like, yeah, I could. Like, technically at the time, like I could go drive to the gym, I could get it in. It's not ideal because it's, 7:30 at night and it's gonna be busy and whatever, but I technically could go and get it in. If someone offered me said they'd give me $1 million, I would 100% make it happen. It's like, okay, well then it's not a time issue. It's a priority issue. You just really, really, or you're affected probably by motivation a little bit, how you feel. And the $1 million makes you really feel like going. And so now we're acknowledging that it's not a time issue. You do have time to go to the gym, and you're letting how you feel affect whether you're going to go or not. However, I still think that wanting it enough is BS. I do think there's some truth to seeing if your priorities are lining up. There's obviously, a lot of times that you have like these small time pleasures that overtake or overpower you for the long-term goal, right? But I do think that like not wanting enough a lot of times is BS, because if wanting it enough is what made things happen, I would have $1 million right now. Like, how bad I want just like $1 million just like poof be right in front of me? Like, pretty bad. Like, I think all of us would love to have $1 million, right? But like, I don't have it. So wanting it is obviously not where things wanting it isn't enough. I don't think it's as simple as that. I also think a lot of times, actually many a times, there are emotional barriers, there are psychological barriers, there are tool barriers that actually is what's going to bring you your success. And you more so need guidance around these barriers than, oh, you just don't want enough. Oh, the reason why you don't stick to your calories on the weekends, you just don't want enough. No, maybe you don't know about calorie cycling. Maybe you don't know about taking a calorie average for the week. Maybe you don't understand how to track your calories on the weekend when you go out to a restaurant and you get alcohol or whatever it may be. Maybe if you just had those tools, it's not about wanting it enough. It's that you don't know about any of these tools that could help you be successful over the weekend. And again, it's not just wanting it enough that's going to allow you to be consistent over the weekend. If you knew how to calorie cycle or if you knew how to track out at restaurants, you could easily be consistent. But because you don't know these certain tools, and again, I'm just using the weekends as an example, because you don't know these tools or how to use these tools, you're just stuck to white knuckling it on the weekends, when if you had these tools, you actually could be really, really successful on the weekends. And it's not just a matter of wanting it enough. Another barrier could be, how your family, right? I've worked with a lot of clients who have unfortunately, very unsupportive families who have said really, really ugly things to them. And that's difficult. That's hard, especially when maybe you don't have much of a choice but to be around your family, whatever your circumstances may be. And so it's like, you know what? You can want this all day long, but having these physical, yeah, I guess physical, because it is your family in front of you, but not only physical, but emotional and to some degree, for some people, verbally abusive barriers. It's not about wanting it enough. It's about realizing how maybe toxic your family is, and you need to find a way to remove yourself or voice how toxic and hurtful some of their comments are. And again, it's not about wanting it enough. It's if you voice those things, maybe we could start to move forward a little bit. So again, just going to reiterate, I do think there is a degree of influence that wanting something has, right? If you want something really, really bad, you're going to find a way to make it through, right? You're going to find a way to make it work. And using the $1 million question can really help for you to weigh out, okay, how much do I actually want this? Because I go for it when I offer myself $1 million, but I don't go for it when I don't offer myself $1 million, right? But at the same time, it could just be that there are tools and skills that you're lacking. I was trying to sum it up there, but to go back on it, another one is the scale. People talk about how you can use a scale as a tool to help guide you in fat loss. And if you don't know how to use a scale as a tool, man, that can really be one of those things that just keeps throwing you off your game, right? You step on the scale once a week. And every week you don't see it going down. And it's not the fact that you don't want it enough. It's the fact that you've stepped on the scale 3 times, once every single Monday. And every single Monday, you've weighed the exact same number with all this effort that you put in. And you're like, well, then why am I doing this? If it's not working, then why am I doing all of this? And so you throw in the towel. When in the reality, if you stepped on the scale every day and took an average of the scale over the course of the week, you would have seen that you've actually lost 2.5 pounds over the last 3 weeks. But because you only stepped on the scale every Monday, and it's not to any of your fault, you didn't know that you could use the scale in a different way, it discouraged you. And you're like, well, why am I doing this? Why do I want this if I'm doing all of these things and I'm making these sacrifices and I'm making this effort and nothing's happening? So again, I just don't think it comes down to wanting it enough. I think following through with your goals is a very complex issue on the reason why. And I definitely think for some people it can be that maybe, the last 5 pounds really isn't worth it, because the amount of effort you have to go through to actually lose the last 5 pounds is way more effort than you actually want to put in. And there's that discussion too, right? But yeah, I don't want to keep harping on this one. This one's, I think, a very, very important one. This last one here we've talked about because I've just seen a lot of coaches talk about it. And again, I think there can be a little bit of truth to it. So hopefully that helps to clarify that one. All right, guys, that is the end of this debunking episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, it was a little bit different. So if you would be so kind, if you enjoyed it, or even if you didn't enjoy it, shoot me over a message in DMs. I would love to know if you liked this kind of style of debunking. I might try and collect some more things that I just see on the internet of mindset and things people say, specifically coaches, and talk about that and debunk them and all that. And as always, if you like the show, don't forget to leave a review if you're on Apple with 5 stars. And you can just rate, I think Spotify is just stars. I don't think there's any review leaving 5 stars on Spotify. And then, of course, as I always say, a free way to support the show is to screenshot this episode, share it to your stories, tag me so I can reshare it to my stories. I hope you guys have a great week, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Damn Strong Podcast. Show me some love by leaving a review and sharing a screenshot of this episode on your Instagram stories. Until next time, stay strong.